Dear colleagues and friends, ladies and gentlemen, it is my great pleasure to open the 6th International Conference on Flood Risk Management. We are here in Sao Paulo, you are there in Sao Paulo, that is currently experiencing at the moment one of the most severe droughts in history, but we got together to talk about floods. There is a link between these two extreme hydrologic conditions. They're both effects of changing climate. It is widely accepted that one of the likely effects of changing climate is an acceleration of the global water cycle, resulting in faster evaporation and more precipitation overall. Both the increase in droughts and floods take place in the context of a widespread interannual increase in precipitation variability. And in this context, it's not surprising that the world would experience both more floods and droughts simultaneously. It has been 3 years since our last conference in Tokyo, and the period between the conferences continues to reinforce the need to pursue our goals even harder, to continue working, to continue involving more disciplines, to continue using more science and continue sharing our experiences. We are already making initial steps towards our next conference, but more about that at the closing session on Thursday. During the period between our two conferences, floods are continuing to kill people, misplace people, and inflict material damage. More than 300 major flood events were recorded in the period between Tokyo and Sao Paulo, 6 major events in Brazil. More than 14,000 casualties to floods all around the world and 70 in Brazil. More than 15.5 million people displaced and close to 200,000 in Brazil. And all these events were carrying a very large material damage. As you can see, geographic distribution of large flood events is clearly showing that they are continuing to impact the locations with high population density. Asia, Europe, eastern part of North America, and so on. Global statistics are documenting steep rise in number of events. Flood events are shown in dark blue color. And also, the global statistics are showing an exponential growth of overall insured losses. In face of such trends, the better understanding of what will happen in the future becomes very important for flood disaster preparedness, response management, and mitigation. Many developing countries are being economically devastated by the consequences of more frequent and more intense flooding. Even developed countries like Canada, in the light of recent major floods in Alberta and Toronto, are becoming seriously concerned with the impact that these disasters may have on the overall safety of their citizens. Just to illustrate my point, the Minister of Public Safety Canada, for the first time in the history of Canada, included in his report on plans and priorities to the Prime Minister the statement that says, quoting, "The rising cost of natural disasters and the financial burden on the federal government is the country's biggest public safety risk." Finish the quote. Floods are linked to global change. Global change being driven by population growth, migrations, land use change, urbanization, climate change, water resources dynamics, ecological change. The result of only climate change show here point to major change shown in this particular slide are pointing to the major change in frequency of flood events. Hirabayashi in her work shows the multimodal median return period in years in 21st century for discharge corresponding to 20th century 100-year flood. And as you can see, there is a major change, large increase that's illustrated by different shades of blue in Asia, South America, Central Africa, parts of Europe, and North America. And more recent studies are starting to show a link between global warming and frequency of disaster. Here is an example recently published from Russia, where the clear indication of the link between the increase in temperature and number of natural disasters is being documented. The changing conditions, very frequent flooding, as we speak, Pakistan, India, Thailand are suffering the consequences of very large and significant floods. And their high social and economic impacts justify our commitment to this conference. And what conference is this going to be? More than 230 registered participants, 35 countries. We'll have 5 exciting plenary sessions with many invited keynote speakers, 24 parallel sessions, 110 oral presentations in addition to over 200 posters. The conference will generate a number of outputs. Papers that you already got distributed with the conference material, website which will help us to bridge between this and the next conference, special issue or special issues of the International Journal of Flood Risk Management, and I hope many new friendships and contacts. Let me at the end thank every one of you for participation. Many people were working very hard to put this conference together. Many thanks are going to the local organizing committee led by Professor Ruben Porto, Arisualdo Melo, and my right hand, Dr. André Chardon, who was the major and essential link between Canada, Brazil, and almost every one of you. They were supported by ABRH, Jussara Cabral Cruz, Vladimir Karamori, Alexandre Baltar, and Secretariat members Rossi Correa and Rodrigo Cordeiro contributed to the successful organization of the conference considerably. Huge thanks also goes to all members of the International Ad Hoc Committee that's responsible for putting these conferences together. I wish you a very successful conference and great time in Sao Paulo. Please accept my sincere apologies for not being able to join you in person.